Again, I always say that every time I go to an interview, I say my specialty is to make those numbers talk, tell the story behind the numbers. My dad was an accountant.
Okay.
He worked for a bank. My mom was a nurse. So it's almost like the blueprint was set way back when.
If tomorrow your story ended,
hmm
what would you want people to remember you as?
Oh, someone who cared,
Someone
who
who cared.
cared deeply. I had to go back because that voice started getting louder in your head. And like, do you really belong here? Do you know what you're doing? You're in over your head. Something that I find myself doing is going back to former successes. Realize you've been able to do this, that, and this. This is just another hurdle.
Everybody's talking about vision, but very few people can make the numbers tell the truth. Today's guest lives where strategy meets accountability. Daniel is a CPA, finance and strategy director, and the kind of leader executives call when growth needs discipline, not guesswork. He has led finance transformation across healthcare, insurance, and other global organizations, driving forecasting, margin strategy, M&A analysis, and ERP transformation. Daniel doesn't just chase numbers. He interrogates them and then turns them into decisions leaders can actually use. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That's a great introduction. You've
I
just
felt
read
I
my
felt like
bio.
I did read the bio a little bit, and had a really an opportunity. We're glad to have you here and to have an opportunity
Yes, appreciate it.
to do this. Daniel, I'm very curious. Who is Daniel Kadeba?
Man, just want to start by saying my husband,
Okay,
father of two beautiful daughters,
two daughters.
two daughters.
Oh
I'm a
my
girl's
gosh.
dad. Got
Okay,
my hands full.
by definition, full. Yeah.
Yes, yes, but also someone who's real. Uh, you know, love to live by to whom much is given, much is required.
Hmm.
So I consider myself a servant leader.
What does servant leadership look like to you? I know you're involved in some community programs. So what does it look and feel like to you? And what programs, if you can share, have you been involved in?
Yeah, no, sure. So to me, it's almost like ignoring the camera, I'll say, and do it with like you mean it. What do I mean by that? So I'm on the board for March of Time in Middle Tennessee. In 2024, I was the chairman for the walk. I volunteer at the church, the Rooming Inn, where we take in homeless people one night a week, overnight during the winter, and feed them, wash their clothes, etc. Give them shelter for
Mm,
night. I like to reach down. I have a friend who actually was on this podcast is who always say, you have to reach out and lift up.
mm,
I need to quote that better, but I like to make a difference
mm.
in my surrounding, in my environment, whatever I do. So I do a lot of using my skill, the finance background to help nonprofit, minority-based nonprofit, etc., and a few other things. You know,
Okay. I mean, so it sounds like service is really in your heart.
definitely,
And
definitely.
and I mean, obviously people can serve, but it's what you do to your point when the cameras are not on and there's nobody taking the picture and it's I remember some time back I think I actually did some work at Roman Inn with you and there's no camera footage there.
Okay.
It's just how do you serve the people and how do you make a difference in people's lives who may be going through something very different than
Uh,
you?
and I think, sometimes it's good to have that reset, right? It helps you remember that you're blessed.
Mhm.
That the little that you have, a lot of people might not have it. So it
Right.
makes you appreciate some of the stuff that you have. And, when you go over there and sit down with these people, share a meal with them and wash their clothes, actually, it's really important to me. And I bring my daughter sometimes so that they can see what they have. And want them to go in life remembering that, hey, we used to do that with dad. And,
Wow.
so
So, you like to play with numbers.
Ah, dude, I love it. I love it. Always been a numbers guy.
Really? So,
Always.
does this run in your family?
So, funny thing, my dad was an accountant.
Okay.
He worked for a bank and I didn't know that I was gonna follow his footstep and become a CPA, but was an accountant. That's someone I admire or inspire me, and I saw him growing up, going to work, getting up, and making sure providing for us. My mom was a nurse; she was a NICU nurse, so
Wow.
to see myself coming back,
Accounting and
yes,
martyrdom
yes, all
tying
that
it all.
coming back
Oh my
together,
gosh.
right? So it's almost like the blueprint was set way back when. So you don't go in life thinking I'm gonna follow my dad's footstep or whatever the case might be, but it happened organically. So love that. But I was always fascinated with math and everything like that. So numbers were always my thing.
Yeah, me and numbers, we have an interesting relationship.
And I understand that there's a lot of people who are kind of, oh no, I don't do numbers. But I think as a good finance or accountant person, making those numbers talk. And I always say that every time I go to an interview, I say my specialty is to make those numbers talk, tell the story behind the numbers, because a lot
Mm,
of time we see finance professionals staying away from, us sticking with the, hey, this is the variance, this is the number, and that's it, right? I think the best one are the one who are able to tell the full story behind the numbers
mm.
and explain it to a non-finance person.
I love that. There's a professor at Emory University, Professor JB Curtis. Shout out to Professor Curtis, who always says, whenever you're doing, finance, just do the right thing. I said, so what does that mean? He said, just do the right thing, So I have an interesting relationship as it relates to numbers. So when you think about where you're from, the life that you've had, the service that you have been a part of, if tomorrow your story ended,
hmm
what would you want people to remember you as?
Oh, someone who cared.
Someone who
Who
cared.
cared deeply and who was passionate about everything he put his head in. If it's work, if it's community service, whatever the case might be, it's like, oh yes, I remember him, and he gave his all. So
Wow. So let's bring it up a little bit here. What's
okay.
what's one failure that you've had that has led to a major breakthrough in your life or for an organization that you have, worked for or worked with?
Mm, you have me thinking that.
We're gonna play some Jeopardy music on this one. So
One failure. So I'll say, sometime in my career working for a Fortune 15 company, remember coming in and taking on a new role, and the transition was a little bit botched, and you know, finance is a job that's very trying to get down the numbers, and the clock is ticking. Let's move
Mhm.
on, etc. So we just went through after the transition, and I picked up a new person, right? But some of the challenges were in the details, right?
Mm,
Did not take the time to understand that, understand all the challenges that happen, and that led to a large material mistake,
okay.
right? And I think I learned again, it sounds cliche, but the devil is in the
In the
detail.
details, yeah.
And at that time, I could not point a finger and say, oh, well, the person who trained me did not do a great job or whatever the case might be. So taking ownership, I learned that when you come in, doesn't matter, it's yours, right? You have
Mhm.
to take full ownership and, deal with the consequences. So this is something that I tend to leave. You're not passing the buck, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You own it.
I remember I had a boss who used to say, "I don't pass the buck, I am the buck."
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
You
when
are
you
the
move into that role, I become the owner,
say
the
there is
success or failure of this.
success or failure.
So how do you deal with imposter syndrome I mean, you've done so much. I mean, I see a pin on your jacket that looks very familiar to me, but you've done so much. You've been a part of so many organizations. You've been a consultant, you've been in industry, you've led large groups of people. You've also been very comfortable being led. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? What would you say to someone who's facing that?
This is something that I actually I grapple with. You know, not. a couple months ago, something that start doing therapy on,
Mm,
and trying to come fully grasp that concept, right? Because of the elevation of the role or whatever space you might be in. It's like sometime when the challenges come, you tend to uh, question yourself.
mhm.
And I had to go back because that voice started getting louder in your head, and like, do you really belong here?
Right, right.
Do you know what you're doing? You're in over your head. And I think something that I uh, find myself doing is going back to former successes, realize you've been able to do this, that, and this. And this is just another hurdle,
Yeah,
right? Changing your mindset really
yeah.
is what will help you go through this new challenge and face that imposter syndrome. And you have to convince yourself that you belong. So,
So I'm going to say this to you all. There is nothing more powerful than a changed mind. Once you change your mind about the circumstance, about what you will tolerate or not tolerate, about your belonging in the
yeah,
space, then you get comfortable in the space. And then you begin to say, no, 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 that's my seat. No, it doesn't have my name on it just yet, but no, that's my seat. That one is for me because that's where I'm going next, and I belong here.
you have to own it. So the person I work with, the therapist, said, if you were to look at your resume, and had someone else's name on it, you would be impressed. But because it has yours, you're kind of brushing it off. So
Mm.
he kind of helped me realize that,
Now I want to
yeah,
pull on the thread of this a little bit and just acknowledge that for a lot of men, we do not do therapy. So kudos to you.
look,
We
I've,
will fight tooth and nail to avoid.
I've started early on with my marriage,
Mm.
doing couple therapy, marriage therapy. And, I think this year, when I start having challenges with work and my role, and, just again, going to the next level, I was like, I need something, right? And I think we have to look at it as going to the doctor. And same thing, a lot of
Regular maintenance chest.
people do
Mm.
not go to the doctor. It's like, just mental check, right? So I understand the challenges of mental health. Within our fraternity, we do a lot of
What fraternity?
Alpha Phi Alpha
Yeah.
Fraternity
Alpha
Incorporated.
Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Okay.
Yes, yes, we do a lot of hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Checking on each other because we understand that a lot of men struggle with those challenges. So want to be intentional about going through and making sure that I'm okay before being able to help everybody else. So
Love it. So, Daniel, we are at an interesting point here in our segment. Before we go to rapid fire, I want to give you an opportunity to ask me two questions, and then we're going to do rapid fire and we'll get on out of here.
sure, sure. I'll say, what was the driver behind this podcast? Because this is great. I've I've watched a few interviews
Yeah.
from people I know, etc. And I've known you for a little bit of while
Yeah.
now. So just want to see, what was your mindset starting this?
I did not have a desire to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
I started what was supposed to be a LinkedIn series
Hmm.
because several of my friends and folks that I knew had been impacted by layoffs or career transitions or were looking for their
Right.
next X, Y, and Z thing. So I actually kicked off with what was supposed to be LinkedIn Live and said, "Hey, I'll just interview you all on LinkedIn and tell people how great and wonderful you are, but also let them see you not just as the worker, not just as employee 14,000 whatever, but as a contributor, thought leader, or person who has a perspective."
Right. Right.
And originally, several of them were like, "Mm-mm, I did not want to do a LinkedIn Live." So I had asked a phenomenal HR practitioner named Nikisha Hicks from Nashville. I said, "Hey, will you come on the show and do this first with me?" She said, "Yes." Fast forward, people started to fall in love with the show, and here we are, years later. We went from being virtual only to now being, in different studios, both here in Nashville and across the country.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. My second question is, what's your biggest fear?
Oh, professionally or personally? You know, I want to when I was young, my mom got sick. And even now, she's, sick again in this current point of life and in a rehab facility for the next few weeks. But because my mom got sick when I was so young and because she was so young, I paid attention very closely to like what she wanted if it was to turn for the
Yeah,
bad. And that was she wanted her patients to know that she loved them.
real.
That I mean, my mom's a nurse, very similar to your mom. She wanted them to know that she didn't just leave them. I mean, she works in long-term
Mm.
care. That Miss Laura didn't just, leave the facility, that she cared for them, that she wanted the best life for them. So, when I think about fear is that I wanna make sure that I have done enough with the time that I have, that I am remembered, and that people think like, "Hey, this guy is a good guy and has contributed to the way of the world."
Got it. That is great.
So we have 1 minute left on the chopping block here. I'm going to go through a round of questions
Sure.
and we will wrap things up. Favorite childhood cartoon?
Tom and Jerry.
If your life was a book, what would it be called? If you could go back,
Trial and tribulation.
all right, TNT. If you go back and say something to your younger self, what would you say?
Uh, Trust the process.
What's one thing you want your girls to know about you if you were no longer here?
That that I love them.
Okay, hiking or biking,
Biking.
summer or winter,
Summer.
above ground or under the sea, if you could live anyplace else.
Above ground.
Okay. All right. Listen, we've got to the end of our time. For those of you all listening, I'll leave you with this quote by Caroline Wanga, who is one of my most favorite people in the world. Suspend judgment and assume positive intent. The world is filled with so many different alternatives. I am choosing, and I hope you'll choose with me, to suspend judgment and assume positive intent. We'll see y'all later.